Isabella, great to have you on the podcast.
Thank you.
So what are you drinking today?
Today I'm drinking a matcha bubble tea without any pearls because I guess they ran out.
Basically, we have we went to Bubology and they ran out of tapioca balls. Can you believe a bubble tea shop without tapioca balls?
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? So Isabella is drinking plain matcha. So what I like to do on this podcast is by someone's bubble tea order, I like to give a bit of analysis on the type of person.
Oh, interesting.
I think they are.
Okay.
So you chose matcha,
Yeah.
like me, so I feel like we're compatible.
Cool.
I feel that you're calm and relaxed. Maybe you've got cultured taste because matcha's quite, cultural, from Japan, things like that. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Maybe.
Yeah? Am I right or am I wrong?
It's a nice analysis.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I actually am a big matcha fan. So.
You're a big matcha fan.
Yeah.
Fantastic, yeah. All right, so let's get into the podcast. So the first thing I want to discuss with you is the 0 to 6 months of starting LocalMeal. So we do this podcast to help aspiring founders really get an insight in how to actually start a business, all these actionable insights that after they watch the podcast, they're going to be right, I can do this, this, and this to start the podcast.
That's great.
So I've got a few questions. So when did you first have the idea for LocalMeal?
So LocalMeal started as a university assignment. So we took the entrepreneurship minor at UCL, me and my two co-founders. And basically we started the minor without any thoughts that we were actually going to start a business out of it. But the assignment was, go home, this was during COVID, and think of a problem you'd like to solve. Not a solution, but a problem.
That was an assignment.
It was an assignment,
cool.
yeah, for our entrepreneurship class with this man named Dave Chapman. He's quite well known in the UCL entrepreneurship community. And basically I vividly remember one of my co-founders was not in London, but my co-founder Noah, he was here, and I vividly remember us walking in the park and thinking of all these problems we've experienced, and so many were kind of pointless, like, I can't find which classroom to go to or something like that. But eventually we looked back to a story of when we traveled to Lisbon in Portugal and we wanted to find an authentic Portuguese restaurant, which shouldn't be hard in Lisbon. No. And basically we were like scrolling through Google reviews, couldn't trust anything that we were reading. And then we walked around and, it was full of tourist traps. Like, when there are people outside with menus trying to bring you in, and it's bad. And so we were being very stubborn. And eventually after like a few hours of walking, we found an incredible place. But that whole story was, wow, that was so hard to find a local, authentic place. And that was the problem we decided to tackle for the assignment.
So when you remember that problem, how did you go about and action that idea?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a slow process. So the first thing was the assignment was all about kind of applying this design thinking approach to designing a solution. So
Could
that's
you
all.
Explain design thinking for anyone who doesn't know?
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I think it comes from like the Stanford maybe School of Design. I think that's where the concept originated, but it's applied a lot nowadays. So basically what it's about is before even brainstorming a solution, designing a solution, it's about empathizing with people and with your users. Yeah, so that first step is called empathy. And for that, and this is what we did for the assignment, you have to interview people about what are the pain points about the restaurant discovery process. And the interviews were so crucial in the way we developed LocalMeal, because we discovered a fascinating trend, which is that despite so many platforms existing to discover restaurants, Google reviews, Yelp, TripAdvisor, we discovered people don't really use them. They prefer to use word of mouth. For sure, yeah. And so that's like such a critical thing that we discovered through these interviews. And basically LocalMeal then became an idea to bring the trust of word of mouth onto a mobile restaurant discovery app.
I totally agree. When you go to a new country and if you know someone there, you definitely ask the people who live there what to do. You would never think, Google's going to tell me like the best authentic restaurant. So that's so cool that you managed to think that. I've actually downloaded the LocalMeal app.
And
I've put my recommendation for Matcha because a lot of people don't know about this place. So
what's it called?
Oh, I was going to tell people to download the app to find out. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so
that's a good strategy.
Download the app to find out where I think the best matcha in London is. So how did your team meet? And you've said you've met on the course, but how did you decide what jobs you were each going to do?
Yeah, I mean, so at first it was kind of like because we studied the same program, so our set of skills was quite similar. So I would say at the beginning of LocalMeal, we were kind of all in on it, all over the place. And
So you're all just doing all aspects of building this.
Exactly, just all hands on, and we were constantly asking each other for feedback. Very similar skill set, but I think gradually and quite naturally, people started gravitating towards different roles. So Noah, for example, really had found out he had a gift for graphic design, so he really ended up taking over this designing the product, the interface of the product, for example. I kind of got more into the sort of like business development, you know, financials, you know, pitch decks kind of work, and our third co-founder was gravitated towards marketing, although because we were such a small team, we were still overlapping all over the place. So there were these kind of little paths, but we still collaborated a lot on everything.
So who was building the app technically?
Yeah, well, that's a long story. I mean, for a long time, LocalMeal was not an app.
Okay, first.
We basically just started out with launching our Instagram and a website and social media. And like at first, we didn't have anyone technical to develop the app on our team. So, I mean, this is our story, but basically the winter of 2021 to 2022, we started developing the app with one developer, and then that didn't work out.
How did you find that developer?
He was basically our third co-founder, Darren. She had a friend who had this business who was developing apps. Found him. That didn't work out.
Did that cost? Just really want to get into the details. Did that cost to build?
Well, the problem with that was that it was the cheapest option that we could have gone, because we were bootstrapping at the time, and that was the problem. Basically, it was like under 4,000, which for the complexity of our app is basically unheard of. So that was not good. And that ended, and then basically we went back to the drawing board, summer of 2022, got the Young Innovator Award, and then we were able to, this February, start developing the app again.
Did they give you money to the Young Innovator Award?
Yes, and we were able to use those funds to develop the app now. And the way we found this developer, and he's still with us, he's really amazing. He's the colleague of my cousin. So word of mouth is a very trustworthy way to find people, I would say.
Yeah, I totally relate to that, because I tried to build a web app for a tutoring company. And I was like, I'm bootstrapping this. I'm just going to find the cheapest option out there. Complete shambles, complete waste of money. I think, as you mentioned before, like really getting to know your users and not building the app too soon is actually a really good way to like make sure that you know what you're going to build before throwing money into it. Yeah,
I totally agree. I feel that especially when you're a student, there's no huge rush, you know, it's like the early stages of our career, and looking back, you know, we were so excited to launch in 2022, and then but now looking back, it's like we've launched now, we probably wouldn't have gotten the downloads we have now, because we managed to grow our Instagram by like more than 2,000 followers in that meantime. Yeah. Which has meant a lot for the business, I think.
Yeah. And the app is not glitchy, it's clean. Like it's a good app. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's an app that we're proud of, for sure.
And what would you say some of the other biggest challenges you had during the early stages of running LocalMeal?
Challenges. Well, there's so many. Yeah. Besides the app development, let's see. I mean, I do feel there's kind of this thing of, you know, startups in the university environment are still quite rare. So everyone around you is looking for stable jobs, and there's no uncertainty, and, you know, it's like easy to kind of question yourself. Yeah. I would say that's a challenge as a student, and especially I think another challenge is usually when you're a student, you don't really have any funds to begin with. So it's about how can I kind of scrape enough money to get this going, and that's not easy. But I do think it's very rewarding. So
yeah, I totally agree with you. This is kind of why I wanted to do the podcast, because straight after uni, couldn't find anyone who was like running a business, kind of wanted some relatable insights, and couldn't find it. So
definitely, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, and is there anyone on this journey that inspired you during the first sort of 6 months of LocalMeal?
Yeah, so I mean, to be honest, I think that inspiration-wise, it's been hard to find people that have been doing something similar. I did find one friend, Ali.
Oh, Ali, yes.
Yeah, we've spoken together about her, but I found her early on. My friend, as soon as she heard that I was founding a startup, she said, hey, I want to introduce you to someone who's been doing that. And I think just having a few coffees with her every month really meant a lot, because it really felt like I wasn't doing something too crazy. And I think just looking up to, finding a few people who are in a similar space does mean a lot. So that's why I think it's actually really cool that you're doing this.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like when you have friends doing like raising and building apps, then you realize actually this is a reality that can happen.
Yeah, maybe you can do it.
Maybe you can do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
So great that you sourced, like you cited Ali as one of your inspirations.
Yeah, definitely. And we're friends now. So she's, not just someone who gives me advice, but we're friends, and it's really nice.
Yeah. And I just really wanted to delve into the financing of the app. I know you've mentioned briefly that you had a grant, but we were looking at surveys, and it finds that the thing that stops people from pursuing a business is the financials. So in the early stages, what made you think I can finance this app? How did you go about getting the Young Innovator Award grant? Yeah, just tell us a bit in a bit more detail.
Yeah, definitely. I think financing is, to this day, probably the toughest part for us, because we have a little bit of wiggle room now. We just graduated, and, we're trying to kick this off the ground, but still not like we're paying ourselves a salary, and we're trying to, move it forward. But I would definitely say that is a struggle 100%. The Young Innovator Award, it saved our business. Yeah. So basically,
it kept you running.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the way I found out about it, so this is practical tips. So as part of the UCL incubator, UCL is quite connected to this organization called Innovate UK. It's a governmental organization to help startups in the UK. Brilliant. So basically, through UCL, we got in touch with, this man Gary, who works for Innovate UK, commented on like one of our posts or something, and we looked him up and we're like, who is this? And he onboarded us as his client. Wow. To give us free business advice. And I think when you're a student startup, advice from these mentors is incredible. So did you ask him? We asked him, we booked a call, we really clicked. And to this day, I think Gary's actually coming back now to Innovate UK. He left for a bit, but I think we're going to continue working with him. And he basically is very in the loop of what happens in Innovate UK. And he saw this Young Innovator grant, and he said, this is right up your alley, guys. Apply. Wow. And it really came at a low moment for us, because that's when the first round of app development ended, and we were like, okay, back to the drawing board. And in the summer, I was in Montenegro. I was a little bit not fully into LocalMeal, but I was like, I have to give this a try. You've got to make it work. So I had like my 12-year-old cousin film me, and it was so just, I don't know, like, let's just see what happens. And that's when we got the grant then that September, and it meant a lot. But so it's definitely worth looking into Innovate UK and the support that the UK government gives. Yes. Yeah. So were you so glad that you just didn't pack it in just then? Like Gary, you made those opportunities happen, it seems, like reaching out to Gary, like getting that connection. And he seems like a bit of a mentor, which seems like a common theme in this podcast. People always having these people that, introduce them like into new spaces and things like that. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's so incredible. And exactly. It's just so gradual. You can't really see these huge opportunities unlock in the start, but you have to just kind of keep working. And then as part of the Young Innovator grant, what's amazing, it's not only money, but you also get support. So I've had an amazing mentor as well, Ellie Stamer. She's been working with me the whole year, and it really helps when you're a student to keep you on track. I really think when you have other things on your mind and assignments, it really helps to have extra support. Cool. Yeah. And are you thinking of future fundraising? How far is the grant going to get you? Like, what's your sort of fundraising roadmap? Yeah, now our fundraising roadmap. So we got the grant, and that led us up to our beta app, the first ever version of LocalMeal. Yeah. And now the plan is to raise a pre-seed round to really iterate and find this product market fit with the app. So, it's very naive to think that the first version of the app we are releasing is the one that's going to explode. We have some initial traction that is, respectable and, that I'm proud of. But now it's time to basically work on the app and really turn it into an app that, everyone loves and everyone uses and that people come back to. And we're going to raise our pre-seed round for that. What does that work entail?
to get it to pass beta,
Yeah.
pass the beta version?
I mean, it requires some more tech resources.
Yes, okay.
So the MVP was about narrowing it down to all the features we thought were essential to get people onto the app and to get enough downloads and some initial traction. And now it's about working hand in hand with our developer, daily to just iterate features. And then of course marketing costs are also quite high because, we've kind of now covered our circle of people that we can cover.
But you want it, yeah.
And we want to grow and expand.
Fair enough. So the next sort of segment of the podcast is called Never Have I Ever. So you're going to drink your bubble tea if you have done these things. And I'll drink with you. So never have I ever taken a business call while still in my pajamas.
If I have, I drink.
If you have. Oh, you haven't?
No.
Wow, you are such a organized person. In the pandemic, you never took a...
No.
Isabella, this is why you've founded such a fantastic app, because you've got it together.
Wow.
Okay,
Look at me.
never have I ever regretted a business decision that seemed great at the time. Oh. Why are you drinking?
The first round of development was not a good decision.
Yeah.
Lessons were learned.
Yeah, that's exactly why I drank as well. Never have I ever considered giving up on my entrepreneurial journey during challenging times.
I don't know.
Oh no, it's leaking a bit.
I was close to drinking, but I think because I was a student, there was low pressure. It wasn't like I have to stay or I have to leave. It was just like...
So you were never really going to it was always going to run in the background
Yeah,
if need
exactly.
be anyway.
During challenging times, sometimes we just took a couple of steps back, but it was still there.
Yeah. And the final one is, never have I ever used unconventional marketing tactics to promote my business or your business. I don't think I have. I've used proper standard ones. But yeah, tell me a bit about your innovative marketing strategies, because that's what got me attracted to LocalMeal, and that's why I really wanted you on the podcast. So yeah, please share.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably the most innovative thing we've done is our brownie stands.
Yeah.
So basically, we didn't have an app, but it was time to really spread the word. And, we were thinking, how can we do this? Where can we do this? First thing is, we were like, okay, we're going to go on campuses, because when you're on campus in front of, I don't know if anyone listening went to UCL or goes to UCL, but basically, like, there's this cafe called Print Room Cafe, and right outside of it is a very busy spot.
Yeah.
So basically, we decided to settle down there. This was before we even had an app. Actually, it was while we were developing the first time. And we came with brownies, and we called this stand Brownie for Beta, meaning we were giving away brownies for people who would leave us their email so that we can notify them to download when the beta is released. So we baked brownies. We tried to bring that
delicious.
homemade, authentic feeling,
Who can say no to homemade baked brownie?
Literally no one.
No one. Yeah.
So honestly, we were surprised by how well it worked from the start. So we had like a sign, free homemade brownies. Everyone would stop by.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And what's nice is as soon as they came, at first people are a little skeptical, like no one likes salespeople.
Yeah.
So.
And if it's free, is there a catch? People are like,
Yeah, exactly. They're like, what's the catch? Yeah. But then, so they're always a little reluctant. But then what was amazing was as soon as we started sharing the idea of LocalMeal, you could see it in their eyes that they could relate and they clicked. And basically the majority of the time the response was, wow, this is actually really cool.
Yeah.
I actually want to use this. And they left their email, no problem. I think with our brownie stands, we must have gotten like 600 waitlist signups.
Yeah. And there's two things that like really struck me about your tactics, because it's the fact that you didn't even have an app, but I think it's so important for people to know that you can just get to know your customers first. There's no need to spend all this money straight away on developmental costs.
I totally agree. I really think that that's the best thing we could have done, because, it takes time to build a community.
It does, yeah.
It really does take time. And so these 1,000 downloads that we got, as big or as small as it sounds, it took a long time to build this community. And there's really no harm in putting yourself out there. I think maybe a lot of people might be like, okay, and what if in the end the product never works out?
Doesn't matter. People don't remember.
Yeah. People won't. They got a free brownie. I mean, it's just not a big deal. And I think we were quite lucky because our startup was around food.
Yeah.
And everyone
has an insight in food. Yeah.
So, you know, as long as our Instagram was just kind of like sharing good food around London, I think people were quite happy with that as well. So,
yeah. Because there's two things. Like, I see on your TikTok, like you asking people in London what their favorite restaurant is.
Yeah.
And I feel like everyone loves giving their recommendations of like their favorite spots. It's a really like feel good, everyone can get involved thing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think people are it's a very nice community.
Yeah.
And people are very open and helpful. And I've always been surprised. Of course, some people are camera shy, but I'm surprised at how many people actually want to contribute and help.
Yeah. And there was actually just a previous learning point that I wanted to touch on when you said, you know, no one's really going to remember like if it all didn't go well. I think there's a sense that we over dramatize how much people think about us or the things we do. Like if you really put yourself out there, no one really, you know, if it's good, people,
I totally agree. Honestly, I think before starting all of this, this all would have seemed very intimidating and very daunting. But I feel like once you start and you realize that nobody's overreacting to it whatsoever, then it just makes it easier to continue. I think, you know, the first moment we put like our faces in front of the camera was very scary. But once you do it,
it's just...
And you realize people respond well to seeing a face behind the brand and things like that. So yeah, once you do it, honestly, you realize it's just not such a big deal.
It's not such a big deal because when I was putting my face out there for my brand, I asked my sister, "Oh, do you think like how did you think my story was? Did you think it was like this?" And she was like, "Oh, what story?" And I saw she had like watched it on Instagram, but she literally hadn't even taken it in, like my own sister. So like no one really, you know, cares.
No, exactly. It's
Yeah, how do you identify with your target audience? How did you get to know them more and more?
Yeah, definitely the student community. So it was very gradual. It was first some interviews for our university project, and then we launched our Instagram, and quite a lot of people were quite engaged on our Instagram as well. You know, and we could start to see what do they like to see, you know, what gets the most engagement. And the brownie stands helped a lot. And so, it was just, but constantly talking to people. Like, I think one thing that's crazy is LocalMeal has become such a prominent conversation in my life. Like I go to a party and someone asks, how's LocalMeal? And then start talking about it. So I think just the more you talk about it with people, you just get feedback all the time and you start to understand, you know, what makes people's eyes light up, like which sentence and that type of thing. I think talking to people is just the most important thing you can do.
Yeah, and I was also going to ask, the next question was, how do you build a strong community? Which I guess you've touched on, but is there any top tips? Like, because community-based apps, I feel, are going to be the future. People are always buying into community. People want it more than just selling something. They want to feel part of something. Yeah. So any top tips to build a really strong community? Yeah,
I feel like I've learned a lot about this over the last 2 years. I think one is you as the founder need to do the groundwork. You have to be present and you have to be there. So with the brownie stands, we don't send an intern or someone else to be there. It's us, and people can see that we're putting the time in and the effort in. I think being a figure that people can relate to. You're not above people. You're at the same level as people. I think that's number one, is being relatable. Number two is being honest.
Being honest,
So I really feel like so for example, right now, our product isn't perfect. And often what we'll do is we'll put on our Instagram stories, you know, we know there are improvements to make. Yeah. Please tell us your feedback, because people feel like they're part of the journey. And I think they're much more willing to help. You know, it would be different if we were like, yep, we're not accepting feedback. Our way is the way it was all designed to be. I think really it's about bringing your audience and your users with you, because you need them. I mean, our audience is more important than anything else. Yeah. So it's really about listening to them. We're very responsive. We reply to all the emails we get and the messages we get. And we like to show people that we're really thankful for them. And I think that's really important, because we are thankful for them. And so I think it's just being relatable and honest with your audience, and being present. Yeah.
Present. Yeah. And that's funny, because with this podcast, the last episode, I thought the audio was fine, and I was like open for feedback, and someone said, "Oh, the audio could be better quality." So like next time you iterate, because you can't really see all the.
It's so
you
hard.
have like loads of blind spots, so it's really helpful to hear.
Exactly, and I think it's impossible to have everything perfect. I mean, it's, you know, as you know, I mean, there's so many different things you can do with this setup and everything. And so feedback is a good thing.
Yeah, and constantly improving for sure.
Yeah.
So the next part of the podcast is personal would you rather questions.
Okay.
Just to get to know you a bit more. So if you could only eat one cuisine for the rest of your life, would you choose Italian or Mexican?
Oh my God, this is so tough because I love Italian food, but I grew up in California. It's really good Mexican food. Oh no. In London, it would be Italian, but I think maybe generally Mexican.
Generally Mexican?
Yeah.
Interesting. And do you have any local, authentic Mexican spots you could recommend?
Yeah, actually, so in London, it's been tough to find good Mexican food,
Yeah,
I have to say, compared to California.
Except from Taco Bell.
Yeah, exactly. No, like, because in LA, that's one of my favorite cuisines.
And you're from LA, right?
Yeah, I grew up there, yeah. But here there's one good spot I found. It's called Pastor in Soho. And what's really nice, it's a really nice sharing concept, and it ends up being quite affordable, and you all share these plates, but they have these like sharing kind of fajitas and things and really nice meats. So yeah, I would recommend that for sure.
Okay, so you go for Mexican. Lovely. So the next question is, I know you're from LA, and I was wondering, would you rather spend the day exploring food in LA or exploring the food options in London?
London.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And what's the reason?
I think London has more because LA is quite a spread out city. So there's some great food, but it kind of, you have to like really look for them versus London. I feel like you could just walk around and really stumble upon so many good places.
Brilliant. And the next question is, would you rather be able to speak all languages fluently? I know you already speak a few, or play every single musical instrument?
Or like every language or every instrument?
Every language and then every instrument.
Probably language. Because,
really?
Yeah. I mean, I really wish I played musical instruments. I don't. I really wish I did. But I think if you spoke every language, you could connect with cultures, in just a different way. So
yeah, fair enough. You know what? I was thinking music because I thought music would be a connector. But then I guess you can't whip out your piano every time you meet someone.
It would be really nice, but in this case, I think language would have a bigger impact.
And the final personal would you rather question is, do you prefer to de-stress by listening to music or exercising?
I feel like I'm like probably, oh wow. Maybe music, I mean, because I don't exercise that much. I exercise like once a week.
that is a lot. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's okay, yeah. In the summer, I exercise more. In the winter, I can't.
You can't, yeah. No, fair.
It's tough.
Totally get that. So the next section of the podcast is just to understand a bit more about your day-to-day, like your day-to-day running LocalMeal.
Nice.
So yeah, what does your day-to-day running LocalMeal look like?
So let's see. Well, right now, currently, I work at the incubator at UCL.
Oh, do you?
Yes.
Amazing.
So I try to get there around 9:30. And
you work from there?
Yeah, I work from there.
Oh, okay. I thought you were part of their team.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah.
Okay.
I work from there. So I've like our office space is there. I go there maybe 3 times a week, and then twice a week. Usually, sometimes I have meetings or like somewhere to go. So then I work from home. But yeah, my days are split kind of into 3 pillars.
Nice.
So one is product. Now that the app is out, we're constantly getting feedback. Need to communicate that feedback with the developer. Meetings with the developer. Anything product related, that's kind of 1/3. Another third is marketing, so either I'll be editing a video or shooting content.
Nice.
Or
So you do that all?
Yeah, and replying to things on Instagram, and whatever. Marketing is
it's a lot. Yeah. So I assumed you would have that outsourced.
Not at all.
Whoa.
No.
So you are the one on the Instagram editing the tips.
It's me and my co-founder. Yeah, we both do. Yeah.
Whoa, that's a lot of work.
Thank
I
you.
think people underestimate how much it takes to run a page, a social media page.
That's the problem, is I feel like my work is now completely intertwined with my phone, which I hate, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
Just trying, So yeah, as you know, marketing takes a long time. And then the last pillar is fundraising. So whether it's making new connections or adjusting our pitch deck or adjusting our financial forecasts, all of that stuff, kind of investor relations. So those are 3 things. And every day I do anything. Like kind of mixed. Sometimes just 2 out of 3, sometimes 1, sometimes all. It's like, but it's really fun because things are always changing. Yeah,
and I was curious, you do all these different things, 3 different things. How do you manage your time? Because we had this conversation and it really struck me that you were like, I think you said something I might misquote here, but like you're like, I'm quite relaxed. It doesn't feel like the worst thing. But you know, when there's this notion of entrepreneurship that you're working all the time, you're burning yourself out, but you were like, yeah, I kind of like what I do, you know, I'm fine.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things I've learned now is that it's just as a founder, it's unrealistic to ever finish your to-do list.
Okay.
So I just think that that's something that I've had to get used to. And because honestly, it's like as you work as a founder, your list just gets longer and longer. You know, you reach out to someone, then you have to book a meeting, and then you have to, you know, it's just things continue. So I think I've just tried to tell myself, you know, anything you do every day still contributes. You know, it's still really meaningful. And if the thing you were supposed to do today, you're going to do tomorrow, it's okay, you know. I've just gotten used to that. And yeah, because I think now having done this for 2 years, you realize... you've
got the rhythm, you've got the...
Yeah, and you realize just little things really do go a long way. So, you know, if one day I have to finish at 3 p.m., it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. And also wanted to get sort of a bit deeper. I was wondering, with entrepreneurship, there's also another notion that like relationships, friendships, loved ones, they all kind of can take a bit of a backseat. How have you find managing relationships, friendships, in general?
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting. Yeah, that's a bit tough, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, the tough thing about being a founder is you could really put in as many hours as you want.
Yeah, there's
so
never
often, so often if you end up making a plan with someone, you could have been doing stuff. But I think it's also important because it's important to just like fill your energy and time with other stuff. I mean, I really enjoy being with friends, and you know, I think I think it's important to set aside time for other things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you know, it's just, I don't think it's very healthy. But it is a good question. It's like making boundaries is hard, or even, you know, especially as I said, because work is on my phone.
Yeah.
Often I'll be hanging out with friends, and then some things come up, or like, you know, me and my co-founder message on WhatsApp, so something might be urgent. He's texting me. So yeah, I'm still kind of in the process of like learning how to create these boundaries. To be honest, I haven't really figured it out.
Yeah. Fair enough. It's just all a work in progress.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, again, we want to still get a bit deeper, and I was wondering, this is the RealiTEA section of the podcast because we're drinking bubble tea. Tara's laughing. Sorry, that's not funny, is it? But anyway, okay. Have there been any sacrifices you've had to make as part of your business, as part of running your business?
Sacrifices.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, if I wasn't running a business, maybe, I think these are all maybes, but maybe I would have done a bit better in my degree, learned a bit more things. But at the same time, because I was running the startup, I think I was maybe even more organized with my degree. Yeah. So you never really know. But yeah, it's a sacrifice. You know, I was like seeing everyone around me. The only thing they were ever focusing on or stressed out were the assignments. And I was always like 50-50. And I mean, the other obvious one is that if I didn't have my own startup, I'd probably be maybe employed right now, making actual money. Yeah. But hopefully we'll get there soon.
Hopefully it will pay off long term. Yeah. And what makes you want to push forward through the hard times? Yeah,
this 100% the answer is the community, the people. You know, we wouldn't still be doing this if, you know, nobody cared. But we often just hear from people how much they're enjoying that. But even before we launched the app, I mean, we were going for a while. People were always telling us, you know, I just traveled to Paris and it was full of tourist traps and I wish I had LocalMeal. And when we heard these things, people who knew what the app was saying, I wish I had LocalMeal. That's what drives us.
Yeah, amazing. And who inspires you? Do you have a particular person?
I have a particular person.
Maybe an entrepreneur, like a friend, a loved one.
Ooh, that's a very good question. Well, I mean, to be this might sound a bit cheesy, but I feel like my mom has been a very inspirational figure because, you know, she moved to the United States when she was 25, didn't speak a word of English, and ended up building an incredible career for herself. And I think, she's always been someone I've looked up to and really like just a figure that's kind of proof that, you know, you can do a lot and you just need to, I think you just need to put the work in. I think that's what she always kind of, she never focused on telling me, oh, you have to be this person, but she always kind of taught me how to focus on the task I'm doing and to do it well and, you know, to put my effort into it. And so, yeah, definitely having her to look up to has meant a lot.
So your top tip from your mum is whatever you do, do it well.
Yeah. And just effort, you know, pays off. I think people often project themselves in the future, like, I want to be this, but kind of forget about the present moment of, like, you know, sometimes you have to put effort in, but not crazy effort, just trying, to do your best.
And I love that phrase. Have you heard that phrase that you overestimate what you can do in a year, but underestimate what you can do in 10?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's totally that. Yeah, absolutely. All this stuff is it's a slow process.
It's a slow burning process. Yeah. And what are some of your highlights of the LocalMeal journey?
Highlights of the LocalMeal journey. Well, now it's launching the app. Truly. We celebrated the launch. We had a little event last week.
I saw that on Insta. Looked busy, incredible.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was like a Tuesday night, so a lot of people are usually tired from work or whatever. We had a turnout of like 80 people at least. Yeah. And it meant a lot. You know, these are people who have really kind of been around and decided to show up. And it was fun, you know. Me and my co-founder had a little presentation, and it was funny because we practiced so many times and this didn't happen, but we just ended up cracking up at so many moments. It was a very fun spirit. And the community meant a lot. So many people texted us after, like, you know, guys, what you've done is very special. And what was nice is that, you know, whatever happens next, this was a moment to be really proud of.
Exactly. Yeah. And what does the future look like for you, Isabella? You and LocalMeal.
Me and LocalMeal. I mean, the future would be, you know, myself running the company. Yeah. This is the ideal future. You know, expanding LocalMeal to new cities, you know, building the features and functionalities, really building an app that's going to help you find the most delicious local restaurants suited towards your taste in a convenient way. Wherever you are, you can find them. And we'd really like it to be, the go-to platform to support local businesses, to have these special experiences at local restaurants. I would really love that, to be honest. I want to stick to this project.
Yeah. And the final question is, what advice would you give to any young entrepreneurs who may want to start a business?
Yeah, I think two things I usually say for this type of question is, one is just community related. So that's speak to people, you know, get their advice. I mean, we're kind of touching upon this, but I think, you know, the fact that I talk about LocalMeal all the time, whether it's at parties, lunches, dinners, with my family, friends, I think this has really accumulated. You don't realize, but it's these little conversations that actually mean a lot. We wouldn't have the community we have now if we weren't constantly talking about it. So really bring people on the journey with you, you know, make them feel like they're part of it, because they really are. And the other thing I would say is, you know, it's very easy to get scared, wondering what's going to happen next and how long is this going to last and how is it going to be perceived. I would say, you know, even one little step every day goes a long way. You know, let's say you're overwhelmed with studying, you have an exam. Write one caption for an Instagram post, you know, just something
little. Keep it going, ticking.
Exactly. I've always done that, where it's like always just, if I'm super busy, have one tiny task, just keep it achievable, you know, and don't overwhelm yourself. But even if you do something tiny every day, it's really going to add up. And you can only notice it in retrospect.
When,
you know, let's say now we're like, oh we have the app. Like, how did that happen?
How did that happen? Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
Crazy. But it's just those tiny steps. So I think that's it. Don't be scared if it all feels overwhelming. Small steps every day go a long way, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Isabella. It's been a pleasure to have you on the podcast and sharing all your insights. And I know it's going to be really helpful for, you know, founders who can relate to you and hopefully one day start their own businesses. So
thank you so much, honestly. Thanks for having me and for supporting student startups.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
It was so great to have a chat with Isabella Mandich, the founder of LocalMeal. She was sharing her amazing insights on how to really build a community-led brand. I really hope you enjoyed the actionable insights she shared. If you found any part of this podcast useful, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.